We're back for episode 2.
It's too lit to quit.
Yes, Hope and
Casey.
Yeah, so here we are. So happy to be back. This time we will be yes, always. This time we'll be diving into The Sorrows of Satan by Marie Corelli. First we talked about Marie Corelli, the main girl here. We love her. We love to see all of her success. And we spoke about her family and her partner. Yes. So now we'll be speaking about her bestseller, which is actually The Sorrows of Satan was considered the world's first bestseller. Yeah.
Like ahead of H.G. Wells, right?
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. I found a little quote about it that, I had to do a little research on what everyone thought about it. It is a damning critique. It is a damning critique of the time's social structure, claiming both that Britain's elite are morally bankrupt and hinting an allegiance to ideals that soon gained in prominence after its publication, such as women's suffrage and the universal welfare state.
Okay.
Yes. Which it is 100%. Like, it calls out everything because you see a huge transition in the main character, Geoffrey Tempest. So throughout the book, you notice a bunch of stuff that he goes through, personality change, the way he treats other people. He just loses like his empathy. You really notice a lot of stuff that's changing. And so I feel like there's a ton of themes that we'll talk about, but one major theme is like good versus evil and rich versus the poor, which kind of tie in together because it's like the rich is the evil and the poor is the good, and so they're both, versus each other. But anyways, so the good versus evil backs up the argument of money being the root of all evil, which is originally what intrigued me the most about the book. It's just what stood out to me the most about the book is that, it's literally trying to say money is the root of all evil. Yeah, it's bad. So this is a Victorian women's literature class, so you would expect me to pick a book that has like more women characters in it. But this book doesn't have many female characters at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it pretty much, there's like one hand of how many female characters are in this book. There's like the landlady at the beginning. There's Mavis Clare. There's his wife. Lady Sybil is in it. So yeah. Okay. I think I said her name right. But so there's not many women in this book at all.
It's like male greed.
Yes, definitely. And also, it's written from a man's perspective. So that's another thing that, is definitely different about this book. It's a woman writing in a man's perspective, too. So it's crazy. That's one thing a lot of people spoke about whenever I was reading about it, was that it was a woman writing in a man's perspective.
God forbid.
Yeah, God forbid. But I will say there's like huge, strong opinions about women in this book. Okay. Like, there's a whole part.
I feel like you've told me, but like when you first reading it, you sent that video.
Yes, there is a whole part. I'm about to read the exact quote. Amazing. So Tempest starts off poor. His opinion on women is that she is simply the female of a man. She has no real soul save that which is a reflex of his, and being destitute of logic, she is incapable of forming a correct opinion on any subject. So that's page 39 of
it's like the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay.
The very beginning. The very beginning, and he's just like, women don't know anything.
Women suck.
Yeah, they can't form an opinion. They can't do anything.
On any object.
Why are they even alive? Anything. Why are they here? Like, he just does, he has
they make babies.
Yeah, he even also says, and I think there's a huge ironic twist in it, and I'll bring that up as we get to it, but I just want to hint that he, even says that he will not marry a woman until he finds the perfect woman. And of course, in Victorian standards, that's like baby maker, ready to get married, has never had sex before, religious, will clean, will cook, will school, will do everything that you need her to do. The perfect help. Yes. But yeah, so that is a really huge thing. There is a lot of sexism, but injustice between sexes is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, there's a lot of injustice. You see a lot of things that go wrong, or not really go wrong, but you see a lot of mistreatment towards women, even if it's not many women. Gotcha. But anyways, so he was desperate for money. He's unable to pay his rent. he's doing all he can to be published by a man that's rejected him just time and time and time again, telling him telling him his books will never make it anywhere.
Never sell.
He tells him all the time, right? So then he receives 3 letters.
Okay.
Initially, he wrote a letter to an old friend of his, basically saying, I need money, I can't pay my rent. And so he sends that. He can't even afford lights in his house. Like, the lamp that he has, he can't even, like, have it turned back on. So sends out that letter, ends up receiving 3 letters back.
Okay.
One of them is a note from that friend giving him $50 or shillings, I'm sorry. Gives him that. Once he has that, he starts opening up the other letters, and one of the other letters will end in the note from that friend. He is stating that he has a friend that he will be sending his way to help him, right? So there's, a little foreshadowing. Anyway, so he opens up the second letter. The second letter is a letter from, I believe the second letter was his inheritance. He had received a $5 million inheritance from, like, some cousin that he didn't even remember. Yeah, crazy, right?
Okay.
But then the third letter is a letter from Prince Lucio. And he is who is representing the devil in this. But at this time, Tempest does not have any knowledge of that. Yeah, he is like, wow, okay, he wants to come talk to me. So then, immediately after, he shows up. Immediately, like he puts the letter down. This letter, not even knock. Here's his voice from down the hallway asking for Tempest, and Tempest is like, because he's literally about to leave. He's literally in the process of, like, gathering his things. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna go get this, like, food, and I'm gonna go get all these things that I need. And here comes Prince Ximenes.
That's when you say
walking
get
up
out.
There. Yeah, and that's the craziest thing. So the prince starts knocking on the door. Yeah. And Tempest will not speak. He's just like, he's not there. He's like, I'm going to try and pretend that he's not there. Of course, it's Satan. Yeah. So he's just like, I know you're in there. Yeah. He's like, I know you're in. Like, you just go ahead and open the door.
Sense your soul.
Literally know you're in there. So he ends up letting him in, of course. They end up going to a hotel. Yeah, so they go to a hotel, they go out to eat. So they have, like, a little moment where he's, like, getting to know him and all this kind of stuff.
They're on a date.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Okay. And so they're talking, and they're just doing a whole bunch of different stuff. They go to this hotel, they stay in this hotel. He gets his first, like, interaction with, like, upper class, because of course it's a super fancy hotel. Yeah, super healthy. Okay. Wealthy, not healthy. Super wealthy hotel. So he goes in there, they do all that. He kind of gets to see how, like, Ximenes treats the hotel staff and, like, the people below him and stuff like that. And he gets to see how people are viewing him, because he is still in, like, these shabby clothes and he looks homeless, but he is in this very fancy hotel and just came upon $5 million. So he's, like, pretty much immediately you kind of see a little bit of a change in his, like, whole demeanor. Yeah, he's just kind of, like, not blatantly like, I'm better than you, but it's more of, like, a whole, like, he's realizing that he is above these people.
I'm better than you.
Yeah, he's realizing that. And so that's, like, a really huge thing. As we said, Prince Lucio represents the incarnation of the devil, though Tempest somehow stays, like, oblivious to this just throughout the entire thing. He doesn't exactly, I don't know, it just never clicks with him. And it's crazy because he has so many people coming up to him and being like, that man right there is evil. Like, he's really, like, I don't think you realize this. And he's like,
what are you talking about? That's Lucio.
I'm rich. I love him.
Yeah, he took me on a date.
And not only that, he showed up and I started getting all this money. Like, what's happening?
Like, he's amazing.
Yeah, he's literally like, this is great. And then he starts, like, being able to work on publishing his own book because he doesn't need a publication from...
He's got the money.
He's got the money to publish it. So he just starts, like... He starts thinking everything's just falling into place for him, right? He meets socialites and all the upper people that, you normally wouldn't meet. And it's just crazy. He's warned several times. He refuses to hear anyone's advice. And as this happens, he's moving up in the social class. He's thinking he's got a new leaf turned over, a new life for him to live. And one crazy thing about it that kind of relates back to our class, is that he didn't have any family. So at the very beginning of it all, like, he had nobody. He was completely by himself. And one thing that we learned in this, the Victorian literature class that I'm in, is that family in Britain, and especially in this time period, was very like business partners could be your family. Like me and you right now doing this podcast, we're family now. Yeah, we're family. So, wow. But yeah, so that's like, that was a huge thing. So I feel like a reason why he latched on to Lucio so hard is because he didn't have family.
Oh, so he's like, you're my family.
That became, his family. And so I think that's why he didn't listen so much, is because he was just like, he was like, you're here now.
Well, like any abusive relationship, not saying that this is like an abusive relationship, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard from the inside to see what's really going on.
To see what's really, especially when you have that connection. And it literally says here on, when we read The Family in Britain by Leonore Davidoff, it says families were large and interleaved by marriage with other families, blurring their boundaries with categories such as friends and cousins. So, like, this was like his cousin. Yeah. He's like, this is my long lost cousin that I'm just now finding, and we're like super close with each other. And I don't know. It just really, blood didn't make you a relative, so this was just tying him in. He was like, you are now, we're together.
We're locked in.
We're together.
For lifers.
Yeah, we're good. And then, of course, that became the thing with, like, all the next people that he starts to meet because of Lucio. And so he goes and he meets all these, like, socialites, like Mavis and all of these, Lady Sybil. And he's like, wow, you know, these people are now my family. Like, I'm here with them. We're all making money. We're all doing the things that we're, like, I'm happy. Yes. And so, he kind of gets stuck in it for a little bit, and he's just blinded by everything that's happening. Feeling less alone, some may say.
It's so hard being alone. You always really struggle for that, like, just connection.
Exactly.
Because human beings we're social creatures.
Exactly.
We need it. And so when you go so long without, I mean, I don't blame him.
Yeah, he immediately was just like, this is where I belong. Like, what's happening? Yeah. And so he finds his comfort in having people that care for him, and he was slowly but surely developing traits of envy and greed and becoming more like he wanted more. He wanted more. He even, like, there was a whole part where he talks about, like, Mavis and, like, how angry he is that she's a writer and all this stuff because he doesn't like women writers. We'll delve into that in just a little bit more in just a second.
Got it.
But there is a part where it's on page 68 where Tempest is speaking with Lucio as Prince and is teaching Tempest the ways of being a part of the upper class. He states, he's not very well off, poor man, but these sorts of people are always so amusing. Do you kind of pick up on what he's saying? Yeah. He's referencing to William Shakespeare. Isn't that crazy? It's so crazy. And he's using this example to teach Tempest that he shouldn't lend or give back to those in need because they're so amusing to watch. Why help them when
it's just so fun to watch?
Yeah, we can just watch them be pitiful and unhappy. And that's the Prince talking to Tempest, telling him, like,
that kind of reminds me of, like, it also kind of feels like it ties into Shakespeare's play The Tempest.
Oh, I mean, quite possibly. Like, honestly, I just read that in my Shakespeare class too. So
I mean, because isn't there, like, an evil monster in that?
There is definitely. Like, well, there's, like, if I'm not mistaken, in The Tempest, there is, what was his name? I can't remember his name. It starts with a C. I have a test over this in like 2 weeks. But yeah, no, he is like some sort of evil higher power, like, spirit type of thing. I think he's like a demon or something.
Yeah, like feeding
and he's there, like, there's a ship that's sinking in the very beginning, and the girl that's in it is basically just like, all she sees is the good on the ship. She doesn't see, like, the bad. And at the end, she, like, meets Ferdinand. I believe is his name.
Meets some prince.
I'm pretty sure his name is Ferdinand. Too. But yeah, no, very similar. Yeah, so it's almost like, I don't know, it's a play. It's a little play on words or something. Yeah,
she, like, weaved it all in. That's really great writing.
It is. It's really, really good writing. But it's just crazy the way that they did view it. It's almost like their way of keeping the poor as the poor. Yeah, is. Well, not giving to them, not being empathetic to them.
Why would I want them to be where we are when I can just laugh at their misfortune?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just so amusing. It's so fun to watch, you know? And so, Anyways, Lucio then goes on to say that I am very glad, he observed, that you are determined not to go about doing good, as the canting humbugs say, with your money. You are wise. Spend on yourself, because your very act of spending cannot but benefit others through various channels.
Okay, trickle down economics.
So you just spend money on yourself, and it's eventually going to come back on somebody.
Literally.
It's going to help them in some sort of way. Yeah, they're paying the taxes on it, you know?
Just keep your money. Don't help anybody.
Yeah.
It's like, they don't need that.
Yeah, like, even though you needed it at the very beginning of this book.
Remember how depressed and poor you were?
You. Yeah.
Like, why would you help somebody else in that same situation?
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Literally.
But he's, so basically Lucio is pure evil.
I agree.
He's just garbage. And there's so many cues about it, but Tempest is just like, yeah, but my life is so happy now.
Yeah.
And why would I give this up?
Yeah.
And I should just continue. It's crazy. It's crazy. So he's being molded into the same person as Lucio.
Mm-hmm.
And that Lucio technically right now would represent the rich or the evil, and Tempest is the poor / the good. But this is also battling like religious views. You're supposed to help thy brother, and thus this is removing the purity from Tempest because he's not helping
he's like
his
sinning.
people around him. Yeah, he's sinning. He's turning very greedy, and that's actually, I'm pretty sure that's one of the 7 deadly sins.
It is.
Greed.
It's one of the, in Dante's Inferno, it's one of the levels of hell.
And vanity. And he's doing a lot of that throughout this. Like, he probably partakes in at least like 70% of the 7. Like 5
he's
of them.
hitting every day.
He's hitting them. He's hitting them all. Then there's a part on page 71, and this is where Tempest is having an inner monologue, and he starts saying, but I felt certain that this intellectual apathy was but a passing phase, a mental holiday and desirable cessation from brain work to which I was deservedly entitled after all of my sufferings at the hands of poverty and disappointment. He was already becoming greedy and prideful.
And he's like, I
deserve this. This came to me because I suffered so much.
Yeah, I struggled so much.
Even though in reality, he still had a roof over his head. He wasn't homeless.
Literally.
He hadn't been evicted yet. Yeah, it could have always been worse. And he wasn't looking at it like that. He was just looking at it as a way that he thought he just needed more always. And this is showing that he's like pretty much unrecognizable.
Yeah, he's like completely.
Yeah, you can't really see him anymore, because at the very beginning he wasn't like super, super helpful, but at the same time he was empathetic. And he literally said several times in the beginning that he would never not give to somebody else, and that like he can't see why rich people would not give back.
Now here he is
not giving back.
Like, I deserve it. I don't need to give back.
Yeah, I deserve it. Why would I do that? Exactly. But yes, so Tempest begins describing his book, and he says, yes, it is this. It is beyond me altogether. And I spoke with some bitterness, quite beyond me. I could not write it now. I wonder I could write it then. Lucio, I dare say, I am talking foolishly, but it seems to me I must have been on some higher altitude of thought when I wrote the book, a height from which I have since fallen, which also seems to refer to his push away from innocence and empathy, because he can't even recognize the book that he has so hard been pushing to be published by this publisher.
He doesn't even
and now he's reading it, and he's like, yeah, he doesn't relate to it. He's just like, is this me? Yeah. Was this actually me? Did I actually do this? And that's crazy too. It just shows you, I don't know, it shows you a very big disconnect. Yeah.
Like a real big, like, cold water to the face.
And honestly, this was actually still this is page 76, so it's still so early in the book. It's like, it's crazy it still took him so much longer to realize how different he was becoming, and how further and further away from purity and like trueness that he was getting. But he can't understand connections that he was making previously. He is being disconnected from his former self, and he says that these things, the reader notices his disconnection from his past life, and it seems that Tempest briefly notices it as well. But we can't help but notice it when we're reading it. We're just like, what's...
It's just like it's a thought. Like
yeah, we're like, what's going on here? Yeah, he's just like, no,
man, I'm different.
Yeah, he was like, something's changed.
Move on.
It's not all this money in my pocket.
I got so much money. I can't
so much money. I can't even focus.
I mean, like, but Wall Street, so much money I got.
No, literally. Just weighing my pockets down. All throughout the book, you can tell that the rich treat the poor very unkindly. They lack sympathy for the poor. They don't attempt to help them or give them any type of advice on how to better their lives. They just laugh at them. They continue on with their bountiful lives as if the poor are just a burden for even existing. It's a little bit ironic because the Tempest starts the novel off as a character who is poor and expecting no help or consideration, even from an old friend that he reaches out for help. He literally reaches out to him and says, he's probably not going to give me anything because that's how rich people get. And then, yeah, of course, he turns around and he's just like, nope, you know, I have money now, so I'm not going to help anybody.
Like, even though I know you gave me some.
Yeah, you gave me. And, you know, it's really weird, too, because I don't think he ever sends him the money back, even though he says he was going to send him 100.
Never pays him back.
Yeah, he was like, I'm going to double it and send him more.
Wow, Tempest.
And never pays him back. That's and it's just like, he helped you.
That feels
he literally helped
so
you.
Rude.
Yeah, he literally
that feels
helped
so, like, I get not giving
and
money
you
to
talk shit about
people.
Him. You were literally like, he's not going to help me because he's rich and he's terrible.
And then
he
literally judging him before you even sent the message.
And then you didn't even pay him back. Like, what's going on? That doesn't make any sense to me. That's a little crazy. But, anyways. So, yeah, he's becoming stingy, greedy, slowly starting to forget the feeling of being poor and hopeless as he once was. And, of course, that also proves the point of money being the root of all evil because he's just getting eviler. His actions are getting eviler and eviler. And it shows how the poor are kept in their place because no one is willing to assist them or to even be kind. They're just like, you don't matter, so that's all. Yeah. Also, this is one of the crazy part is about the Mavis Clare that I was talking about earlier. There's a super huge irony theme that's throughout this book that we'll touch a little bit more on in part 2, but I think it's notable to mention that the Tempest states on page 183, I hate women who write, I said vehemently. This is when he is speaking about Mavis Clare and her writing. And he's basically stating that he's not stating this, but he did state previously before this little quote that she writes so effortlessly and that she's not super she's not super known, but she's successful. And that actually ties back into the fact that a lot of people think that her character is actually Marie Corelli. Yeah. But we'll touch on that a little bit in just a second as well. But she's so successful without even having publications that Tempest strives for, and she's been so successful even before him, and it drives him absolutely insane. He hates it. He doesn't see how a woman could be more successful than him, and you know, we've already talked about that a little bit before too, that he doesn't like, you know, women being upper, and he's not a fan of women. He doesn't think that they can form an opinion. Just like dirt. So he's like, how
are you writing
literally
so
how are you above
you're
me?
A woman?
But there are speculations that Mavis Clare's character could actually be Marie Corelli. Not only are both of the initials MC, but they are also both popular novelists who are not taken seriously by the literary establishment, and they share views on immoral literature of the day. So they're very similar. A lot of people think that it's her, and if you read it too, I mean, the way that she speaks, it kind of sounds like it might be her, because it's very like, you know, she's careless, she's very careless, not careless but careless, and I feel like that's how Marie is. And then here's another quote that I found. This one's on page 142. It says, well, I should imagine Mavis Clare to be a match for anybody or anything, said Lady Sybil. Of course she is not rich, but she spends her money wisely and to an effective advantage. I do not know her personally. I wish I did, but I have read her books, which are quite out of the common. She is a most independent creature too, quite indifferent to opinions.
That feels like Marie Corelli.
Literally,
it feels like Marie Corelli,
right? I know it does. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, this is looking like it just might be her. Looking like it might. But
I think it feels like her.
Yeah, it definitely does. And so yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up what I've got to say about part 1. As we see, we're getting into a lot of like sticky situations.
Like
Everybody's getting a little feeling some types of ways, and a lot of greed coming in. Will Tempest ever find out?
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
It's hard.
Is the Prince Satan? Is he not Satan?
It's like trying to find a lesbian in 1910.
Literally,
you just can't do it.
Literally. We'll figure it out, though. We will. We will definitely figure it out. We'll see you soon.
Right.
This is Too Lit to Quit
with Casey
and Hope. Bye.